Yeah, I was wondering if you dealt with it in that building or just noticed in the community how they dealt with sewage in that area. Because I know it's a big problem.
Yeah, that's always a problem. A lot of the times, Edge 7 will actually go out and work on projects like that, but it's mostly composting toilets. I mean, yeah, they're basically, but you know, they're little shelters, and you move it every once in a while, and that's typically how these places deal with that. But you know, surprisingly enough, I thought the potable water would be #1, and it's an issue. There's definitely an issue. But you know, you're up in the mountains, and there's a lot of freshwater springs, and so it's, you know, I wasn't too worried about the water situation, but it's always something to think about when you go to these countries. Any other questions?
Let's see, Tyler? Question or comment on anything related to green buildings? Put you on the spot. Sustainable transportation. In the class, remember we talked about the pie. What is it, like a third is heating and cooling, a third is transportation, and a third is electricity. Are there, yeah.
I just have a question specifically about, I don't know if you're familiar with the Aiden Center here on campus has the Eco Machine, and I don't know if that's something you've considered in your projects.
You know, I should know more about that. Bill McClay did that building, and I think it was a lead project, probably platinum, but I'm not sure because I haven't talked to him about that building.
There's someone in this classroom though. Is there somebody in here that wants to say something about Aiden, other than the faculty member in the back?
Do you know? Well,
yeah, it's just yeah, it was designed by anyways, it was designed by a professor here by the name of John Todd, and it pretty much takes all the gray water, wastewater through the building and recycles it via microbes and other plants that are located in the building, and then puts it back into the wastewater system.
So Sophia, we tried to do something similar by using that constructed wetland, and so so what he did probably, because I bet you $1 million you can't do black water on campus here, but the gray water. So gray water is stuff that's from showers and from sinks. You take that's called gray water. Your black water is the stuff from the toilets. So you kind of treat those separately. But with the gray water, you can actually here now with codes, you can clean it through things like ponds, like he did, and wetlands, and the plants will actually kind of work away at breaking it down, so then you can reuse it again. You wouldn't use it as potable water, especially here, but you could put it back into flushing for toilets. So what you end up doing is you have double pipe system. So you have to think about that in advance, obviously, because you have 2 pipes going to your toilets and all that. So I think that's what he was doing, and he must have been a scientist of some sort that was working on it with
He was a scientist.
because we're generalists. I have teams of people that do that.
You got to ask a question earlier.
I'd like to show information about materials and wondering how building with the materials that would potentially sink carbon.
Okay. So like, I hear a lot that using wood is probably one of your most sustainable approaches to buildings. I think that because of that fact, one of the factors. But you also want to consider where you're building, because I'd say in Vermont it's a great place to use wood because we have quite a bit of it. We don't have a lot of old growth. It is a carbon sink. But if you're in a place like Sophia, we were very limited in timber. They'd already, there was a lot of rules and regulations against that, so we didn't really have that kind of option. But as far as other products that are that absorb carbon, that's a good question. I'm sure some folks in the audience are probably might know her better than I, perhaps.
Yeah, Ellie.
You said you've been working in several different locations within the States. What has been your experience in working on projects in these different areas? Have you seen a lot of different policies within these regions that really affect the way that you build your buildings?
Yeah, that's changed over the years, which is is definitely interesting. I did a straw bale project in what, maybe 1999, 2000. We did it on an Indian reservation. We only were able to do it on an Indian reservation because in most places you weren't able to do that because of the codes. And we wanted to build, in that particular project, we wanted to build a straw bale house that didn't use any wood, and you couldn't do that. They just were saying, no, that's not going to work. Codes, I mean, because people have kind of jumped on it and it's become more mainstream to be green, people are starting to be more loose. Things like water, there's a question on cleaning water. That's a big one. As far as in another country, sometimes you might be able to reuse water that's cleaned by wetlands, that kind of thing, and you reuse it for potable water. But you wouldn't be able to do that in this country now. So it really varies, but it is loosening up. It's definitely loosening up in the United States so that there's more opportunity to look at alternatives. So that's a good question.
Did anybody go to the energy efficiency mobile home? Yeah, is there anything that you saw there that's related? Was it that they were trying to do that relates to this?
Is that the Middleburg project?
What?
What tell us about it?
Oh, I don't know. It had double insulated walls that were packed fiberglass. So it's like a wall, and then for the exterior wall, and then there's a separate interior wall with a space between them, so that eliminates the thermal breaks caused by the sets.
Yeah.
It had like a solar heat exchanger in it, a bunch of solar panels on the roof.
It's a mobile home.
Yeah, it's like designed to replace a mobile home in a trailer.
Yeah, no, that's a great project. And and I was being kind of brief about the super insulated walls, but making sure that you don't have thermal breaks is a big deal, because it's just like putting a little hole in a sieve. Like that cold air, if it conducts, like if you have a piece of metal that goes from the inside to the outside, heat conducts through there. So you have to be really conscious of thermal breaks. And a double insulated wall, that's one great way to start. I have a hard time sometimes with a double wall because you're using so much material. So then you kind of have to balance out, like, okay, how much material I'm using? Can I do thermal breaks without having double studs? So sometimes we run insulation on the exterior of the envelope, so any of your studs run into insulation, so there's not that thermal break from inside to outside. So there's all kinds of things to consider with that, but that is an approach.
Like rigid foam on the outside.
Yeah, because then those studs aren't directly conducting heat from inside to outside. But you got to think about all the details though, because then you'll have all kinds of holes like outlets and that kind of thing that can kind of create a thermal break.
Have you ever designed anything that had zip wall insulated sheeting on it?
I haven't, but my office at Truex we have, at Gossens Bachman we have. There's definitely some merit to zip wall systems. Yeah, mostly housing projects so far.
So we're about to stop, but jobs in the green building loosely defined, where do you see, what types of jobs are out there? Yeah.
I think it's really important. Are there jobs in the architectural community for green building? Definitely. I mean, especially if a young person coming in, I think it's really important that you know about green building and sustainable design, if that's what you're interested in, because a lot of people that's not how they were educated. So you get into a firm and you can be like the sustainable design expert. So that's huge. And I think there's work. There's work. There's work. There's good work out there. You just have to find work for the right firm. That's all.
We have 2 green building tours on our field trips. One, do you have any thoughts on these, Diana? One is NRG Systems in Heinsberg, which is, I think, net zero.
Yeah, Phil, they did that maybe the late 90s. Yeah, it was a little while ago.
And the other is just here in Burlington, down at the bottom of Main Street on the right. Main Street Landing, but what's the name?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 7th generation.
The one that's 7th generation.
The 7th generation.
It's got the winged monkey on the top.
I bet you Phil did that too. I'm not sure. 7th generation did that project. He also did the Aiden Center, so.
Yeah, he does a lot of sustainable buildings, quite good.
80 students not in the class, you're welcome to join us on those field trips. You can just email Dan right here, and he'll send you the link, and then you sign in on this link. Any of you are welcome to join us on any of these, and a bunch of